Welcome to Civ 101, your crash course on everything you need to know to take your first steps into this new age of civilization. I'm your professor, Alan Wheeler, and today we're sitting down with guest speaker Ed Beach, the creative director at Firaxis Games, to learn about the new ages of Civilization VII. Presented by Civilization VII. Welcome, Ed. Let's jump right in. Ages are one of the biggest changes coming in Civ 7. What can you tell us about this update?
So Civ 7 is the next big update for the Civilization franchise, and our biggest new feature is what we're calling Ages. Ages is a way to take the very long, drawn-out Civ experience that could take players 10, 15, 20 hours to get through a game, and break it up into chapters. Each chapter is more manageable. There are sort of medium-term objectives for the players to pursue, and it allows the game to have a sort of more natural pacing and cycle of dramatic conflict, but then a chance for players to kind of breathe and relax and regroup afterwards. So the three ages that we're introducing with Civilization VII starts with the Antiquity Age. You see classical empires like Rome, Greece, China, India, all start to form. And then after a big crisis at the end of that age, those empires are all being challenged by whether it's a barbarian threat or a plague or something along those lines. They're going to have to reform in our next age, which is the Exploration Age. The Exploration Age has a new cast of civilizations, and those civilizations are really about exploring the entire world, not just sort of their section of the world, their region, but going out over those oceans, pursuing riches from afar and bringing them back home. There are challenges that those Exploration Age civilizations face as well, and so they're going to have to go through a crisis, regroup, and launch into the third chapter of our game, which is the Modern Age. The Modern Age takes players through the discovery of steam power, factories, industrialization, and on into the world wars. And eventually, by the end of that age, the atom bomb has been created, and the first forays of mankind into space have occurred.
How do the ages transition from one to another, and what impact does one age have on the next?
So when you reach the end of an age, you do get to a period that we call the age transition. And that's a moment where things proceed in sort of a soft reset of the game world. It's as if time has passed, maybe 50, 100 years have gone by, and your kingdom, your empire, having faced those challenges, is going to have to regroup a little bit. So the military forces that you had at the end of the previous age are still represented in the new age, but they're moved up to the next echelon of units, sort of the base units for the next age to come. Cities that you may have invested in, we have cities and settlements that are now either the lighter weight town tier or the city tier. Those are pretty much all downgraded to the towns, and that you invest and choose where you want your cities, where your hubs of activity are going to be in the next age. There's also a lot of ways that your accomplishments from your previous age move forward with you. We want to keep that pathway of civilizations that you've chosen alive and very much at the forefront of your mind. So any unique infrastructure that's buildings or quarters or improvements that you have that were sort of signature elements of that previous civilization. So for instance, if you were playing as Greece, you might have built some of our new Parthenon districts, and those would roll forward with you into your next civilization. So those are present. Those maintain their full strength throughout all the ages. Some special social policies that you earned playing as that previous civ will carry forward with you. For Greece, for an example, they are very good at working with city-state allies. So you might get those bonuses are going to be right there available for you in your ages to come. And then we also have a system that we call our legacy path system, where no matter what age you're playing, we're recognizing accomplishments in science, culture, military, and economic arenas. And any of those milestones that you've reached along those legacy pathways unlock rewards that you cash in during this age transition moment. It might be ways that your leader gets stronger through your attribute system. It might be special abilities that you have in that next age that you can take advantage of and maybe help you again on that science pathway that you're following in the next age.
What tasks are necessary to complete an age?
So the way advancement works from one age to the next is if you're in an age, let's use antiquity as the example, it's a maximum of 200 turns. So each turn that you play, a counter is going to go up by 1. And whenever that counter reaches 200, the age is going to end. However, if you are accomplishing a lot, or maybe your opponents are accomplishing a lot, anyone who triggers a milestone is going to push that progress bar forward by 5, 10, even more points. So the age typically probably doesn't last more than somewhere between 120 and 150 turns on standard speed because of the people tripping those accomplishments and milestones. So let's give some examples of what those legacy path milestones will look like. In the age of antiquity, the culture path is all about building wonders. So the end of that path is when you reach 7 world wonders in your civilization, and basically you have created the 7 wonders of the ancient world. But there are intermediate points, less than 7, where you get rewards of culture or cultural attributes for your leader in the next age. And so by building those successive wonders, you'll trip those milestones, and hopefully you'll be the first one to get to 7. But everyone's rewarded for however much progress they make along that path. So it's not really a race. It's really just a matter of how much accumulated credit and goodwill can you have towards your start in the next stage. The other pathways in antiquity are also very interesting. There is a military pathway, which is our Pax Imperatoria pathway, and that's representing how big an empire, sort of reflecting the Roman Empire during that part of history, you can put together. If you can get 12 settlements, you'll finish that path. Although every settlement that you conquer from another player is worth 2 towards that goal. So you don't have to spread out and have a large empire if you get a bunch of it through conquest. And then similarly, we have a science pathway that's all about unlocking codices, sort of great scrolls of early learning. And the more of those you accumulate, the further progress you make on that path. And then the last path, our economic path, is the Silk Roads path. And that is completed by obtaining resources through our new trade system and slotting them into your cities and towns.
What led the team at Firaxis to switch to this new system?
So we made a big switch to this ages system. It's definitely breaking up the pacing of the Civilization game. And it was a very deliberate change on our part based on a lot of data that we'd accumulated over the last 5 or 10 years. We saw that there actually was a sort of shockingly small percentage of players who finished their Civilization games. And a lot of players never, ever experienced the end of a Civilization game even once, even if they played the game repeatedly. So we took a hard look at why that might be the case. And we realized that it was definitely the tendency of any 4X strategy game to sort of explode with choices and objects to manage, more units to manage, more cities to manage, more build selections to choose for those cities over and over. It just got it so that the simple operation of finishing a turn late in the game was cumbersome and did take a lot of involvement. So we felt like there were several different ways that we could attack that. One was just to be very mindful of how much micromanagement was being introduced in the game. Things like the builders in Civilization VI, we loved sort of how they made the choices, very nice, discrete atomic choices about how your city was going to expand and where it was going to be improved. But it led to a lot of operations, building more builders, getting them out there in the field, moving them to their destination, and then deploying the improvement. So with that particular situation, we decided, let's look at the micromanagement, but is that going to be enough? Is that really going to reduce the amount of work it is to get through a turn late in the game? And we realized we needed to do some more fundamental restructuring. We needed to really reset the game board a little bit so that you just had less to manage overall. And so we do that with the Ages systems. We do things like when you get to the second age, you get the Age of Exploration, you get a brand new set of buildings to place in your cities. And those are placed over top of the buildings from the Antiquity Age, replacing them so that you just don't have to manage the earlier game buildings like your libraries and your blacksmiths and things like that, because you've got better things to be worried about later in the ages. So through this process of replacing things, overbuilding things, simplifying things down at the age transition, we've had great success. We've run lots of tests, and it is absolutely working that players are engaged all the way through to the end of a Civilization VII game now.
What sorts of technical advancements went into bringing Civ 7 to fruition?
In terms of technical advancements for Civilization VII, I think there's just one that stands above all the other ones, and that's the fact that the team here at Firaxis is taking responsibility for and shipping the game simultaneously to all the platforms that we ended up on in Civ 6. So Civ 6 started as a PC Mac based product, and platforms were added to it slowly but surely as years went by and we got the game ported to those platforms. But we didn't want to leave any of those communities behind. We now have a lot of fans on various console devices. They are as excited about the Civ 7 experience and possibilities as our PC players are. And we didn't want them to have to wait to get the new experience. So we're like, well, we've got to ship to all these people all at once. And that's obviously been a huge challenge for our team. We have a very dynamic system so that the graphics can be scaled up or down. So we wanted the game world to look amazing to our higher end users that might have a very powerful PC Mac type of platform or one of the newer consoles. But we wanted to be able to support players all the way down to our Switch players, where we had a actually very big install base for Civ 6. We wanted them to be able to jump right in and try out the new gameplay in Civ 7 as well.
Ed Beach, thank you so much for talking to me and the class today. Dive into a new age of civilization in Civilization VII. Available now on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, Mac, and Linux. And remember, for all things Civilization VII, keep it locked to IGN.